ahead and regular schedule. What's on here?
Yeah.
A lot of calves on the ground yet?
What's it?
You got a lot of calves on the ground yet? I just got started. I just got 9, so well, you know, it won't take
They
too
won't
long.
start calving again until this weekend.
Yeah.
There's 200 belows here.
Ain't no shit.
What's that?
You can't get that word, you're gonna pick notes. Mr. Secretary.
Yeah, we're screwed then.
Yeah, because I think last year you missed the meeting, that's how you got to be secretary.
That's correct.
The other two made the mistake of not showing up every day when we had public offices, so they get whatever they get as far as I'm concerned.
That is right. I was gone. That's right.
Lance learned that the hard way, right? Always show up when they're appointed officers, that's common sense.
I'm ready.
I should have told you when I did tell you, like, every day I look at that, I look at this, like, think of myself. So, he didn't tell me that, of course not. What a difference, though. I mean, right? What a difference.
You might have to get your pen out.
I'll have to go get one of my daughters to be able to do that.
So long as you guys speak into the microphone, you can hear yourself on YouTube.
Yeah, you just have to
Make sure to turn it on.
You ready to go now?
Yes.
hope it's sitting on.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to our Drainage Board meeting this morning. The very first thing, would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first thing we got to do this morning, we have to reorganize, elect officers, and schedule our 2026 meeting schedule. I will entertain the motion for president, chairman,
I
vice
nominate
president.
Dave Rhoads.
Any other nominations? I hear none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Do we have to vote right now? Do we need to vote? Yeah, you need to vote, yeah. I thought so. All in favor of Dave Rhoads as chairman, raise your right hand. I put my left hand up. Okay, going to, yeah, thank you. Vice president, which Doug has been the vice president before.
I nominate Doug to
That
be
does not
vice
mean
president.
Doug's not be here, but that's, huh?
I nominate Doug for vice president.
Been moved and second, we nominate Doug Mills for vice president. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Doug's our vice president. What is it, secretary?
Yeah.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I nominate Matt Mitchell.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor of Matt Mitchell being the secretary, raise your right hand. Congratulations, you're.
Thanks for your
Okay.
service, Lance.
Is that to take care of the officers, right, Tom?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have been meeting on the second Wednesday of the month. Is that right?
Yes.
Does anybody want to change that schedule or want to maintain that schedule?
Same.
Same? Do we need to put that in a form of motion? I move that the Drainage Board meets on the second Wednesday of every month. At 9:30 here at the county building. Been moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Okay. Next one is the attorney contract. Mr. Taylor has been our legal service for the Drainage Board. I nominate or move that we accept his contract again for another year.
Second.
All in favor, any discussion? I hear you're gonna have a cut rate for us this next year.
You got a cap on me, remember?
Okay, all right. All in favor of Dan Taylor being our legal counsel, say aye. Aye. Excuse me, motion passes. Okay, next thing is approve the minutes.
Yes, I believe each of you got a copy of the minutes from the December 17th meeting. I have received no revisions or changes, so I would recommend you approve the minutes as submitted.
Matt, you did a great job.
He did. Oh,
I
that
did
was
those.
Lance. That's right. That's Lance. Way to go, Lance. Just ignore my name.
Need
at
a
the bottom.
motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Excuse me. Okay, the hearings. What this amounts to, people, is we're not going to raise assessment on any of the ditches. It's just a process we have to kind of bring all ditches up to speed. There's been some change in some watersheds. Some watersheds have got smaller, some watersheds have got bigger. But we're not rating, we call it a assessment hearing, but the assessment is the same will be the same. So we're not changing that at all. So that's the main thing, and that's the same way for all these that's on this sheet. Everybody's the same thing. So I guess the main thing is we'll go through each ditch, talk about it, and if you have any questions, you come up here in front and present yourself. But we're not changing any of the assessment dollars and cents. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so Tom, I'll let you take over and go from now.
Sure. The first drain under hearings you'll see is the Wiley Bastion number 502. Pull up the report here so we can follow along. Just some information on the drain. Was constructed in 1894 and again in 1930. We have no record of any reconstruction. Located in Township 20 North, Range 5 West, Sections 22, 23, and 26. The current watershed consists of 866.51 acres. The proposed watershed is 866.76 acres. Tile composed of approximately 15,538 feet of tile, ranging from 20-inch, 18-inch, 12-inch, 10-inch, and a few unknown size tiles. There is no open ditch associated with the Wiley Bastion. Currently, there are 29 parcels assessed. The proposed is 30. The drain status in 2025, it was an off assessment, classified as in need of maintenance for 2025. So currently, the assessment is $4.05 per acre with a $5 minimum, which currently collects $3,519.97. With the revision to the watershed, it would collect $3,524.97. Current maintenance balance, $14,707.31 with no balance in the improvement fund. The next page shows the watershed, just to give you an idea of what it looks like. And then following that is the schedule of assessments with the breakdown of all the individual parcels that are assessed. The first schedule of assessments is the existing, and the second is the proposed. And I will answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Tom?
If you'd like to see it on the map, I can pull it up here. So you can see on the map, the color is different, but the green outline is the Wiley Bastion watershed. The green lines on the map are the actual subsurface tiles that we have record of on the maps.
Any landowners here on that particular ditch?
Believe so. Can't really tell. I've got backup here.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, refresh my memory. Why we got to go on each one? Have a motion to accept the,
To approve the watershed and schedule of assessments as submitted.
I move we accept the watershed as presented. And rates.
Second.
Been moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
The next drain on the list is the Urshel Cross, number 512. Urshel Cross was constructed in 1920, never been reconstructed per our records. The location is Township 19 North, Range 3 West, Sections 2, 10, and 11. Currently, there's 1,151.95 acres in the watershed. The proposed watershed includes 1,152.06 acres. Tile consists of approximately 17,825 feet of tile, ranging from 27-inch, 24-inch, 20-inch, 15-inch, 12-inch, 10-inch, and 6-inch. There's no open ditch associated with the Urshel Cross drain. Currently, there are 47 parcels assessed. The proposed watershed includes 48 parcels. Current assessment is $1.31 per acre with a $5 minimum. Oh, we do have an increase on this one. Urshel Cross? Spoke too soon, Dave.
Thank you.
So we are proposing an increase on the Urshel Cross drain from $1.31 per acre to $2.91 per acre, also with a $5 minimum. The reason for that increased rate is just based on today's cost of tile installation. We try to keep those numbers kind of a running number up to date based on what we're paying for tile installation each year. So based on the watershed and the tiles that are included, the calculated rate would be $2.91 per acre with a $5 minimum, which currently the watershed or the rates collect $1,582.13. Proposed would be $3,390.30. The current maintenance balance is $7,209.81 with a $0 balance to the improvement. Again, the next page shows the map with the white circle showing the revisions to the watershed. Again, these are all very minimal changes. And then you've got the proposed, or the current schedule of assessments, followed by the proposed schedule of assessments, showing the differences in the individual assessments. And again, I will answer any questions you might have. I'll put it up on the map here. So the orange outline is the watershed for the Urshel Cross, and all of the green lines within that orange boundary are known as the Urshel Cross regulated drain.
Any questions? Any landowners here on this particular drain?
I'm not a landowner. Heather LaFoon, treasurer. Tom, I'm just curious, the spreadsheets that you have, that you're showing, do they have access to those?
The landowners?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's sent in the notice.
thank you very
Yes.
much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Tom,
Yes, sir.
explain, and this will help on all of the ditches as we move forward, the current maintenance balance that's on all these ditches. Tell them what that is used for.
So it's important to remember we have a maintenance fund, so every drain has its own bank account, for lack of a better term, that is encompassed within what we call the maintenance fund. So 185 drains, each of those drains has its own maintenance fund. So when you pay your assessment, when you pay your taxes, you're paying a ditch assessment along with your property taxes. That money is put into your bank account for your drain only, and that money can only be used for maintenance on your specific drain. Now, we also have, you notice on the reports, I'm giving a balance to what we call the improvement fund. The improvement fund is a balloon fund that all of the drains can borrow from if they need work and they don't have the necessary funds available in their maintenance fund. So they would borrow that money from the improvement fund, creating a deficit for that drain in the improvement fund, and then the following year, when the assessments come in, we then transfer that money back over to cover that debt in the improvement fund. So the improvement fund is all the drains can use, but every drain has its own maintenance fund that can only be used for maintenance on that specific drain. So what we're doing today is the maintenance assessment, schedule of assessments. Again, like Dave said, most of these we're not actually changing the rate that you're paying. It's just a matter of updating the watershed boundaries to make sure all of the, what we call affected acres, meaning all of the acres within that boundary of that watershed, making sure all of those acres are correctly assessed. So when we make changes to one watershed, if it's got 3 other regulated drains, watersheds that surround it, if we change one, we have to change all the others to make sure it's a conform, basically it's for conformity so that all of the watersheds are assessed correctly. So most of these hearings that we're having, it's because we've had a reconstruction or some other action on another drain that changed its watershed that then created the need to change the watersheds for these drains as well. So most of these have not been through any reconstructions or any actions by the board that would create a new watershed. It was a matter of the surrounding watersheds change, which means these had to change as well. So this is more an administrative type process. This one's different because we are actually raising the assessment. As you can see, the current rate for this drain is
131.
131 an acre. As you can imagine, that's an extremely low assessment for today's costs. A lot of these assessments haven't been raised since the 60s when they were originally established for these drains. Generally, we only raise them if we see we get to a point where we're doing more work than what we're actually collecting and we need to raise the rate. But in a case like this, we're having a hearing anyway, and to get that number back up to where today's costs are is the most appropriate thing to do for the board. The other thing to remember, so that nobody is confused about how this is assessed, the code requires that when your drain collects 4 years worth of assessments, at that point we turn that assessment off, so you're not constantly paying into a bottomless pit. If there's no need for maintenance, at some point you're going to see you're not even paying those assessments some years. So we do a very good job of making sure we keep track of that. Each year I go through all the drains, look at their balances, and say, okay, this drain collects $1,000 annually, there's $4,000 in the account, turn that assessment off for this year. Next year, if we haven't spent any money, again, the next year, you won't see any money until we start, or any assessment until we start actually spending some of that money. So that it is really on an as-needed basis, basically. So we always get that argument is, I don't want to just pay into a bottomless pit. Why are you raising my assessment? You haven't done any work on the drain. That doesn't matter, because eventually we will have to do some work on the drain. It's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. So when we're having a hearing or a function like this anyway, it's just appropriate now for us to say, okay, $1.31 for the amount of tile. I mean, that's 3 miles of tile. $1.31 per acre, even with a larger watershed, you can see it still only collects currently $1,582 a year. That's 2 or 3 tile holes. That's eat up that $1,500 for that year. So the cost of construction, the cost of maintenance, all of this stuff obviously goes up constantly. We don't need to go through and raise rates every year to keep up with that, but at least every 5 to 10 years, we need to be looking at all of these rates and raising them as accordingly. So, but again, understand that we're always doing that with the idea of that 4-year cap. So again, if your drain is in decent shape and doesn't need maintenance, you might pay a higher rate now, but in a couple years, you're going to see that rate goes away for a lot of years until you start doing some work on the drain and that money is spent. So that's a little bit of a breakdown. I hope that
Yep,
answered your
that's
question.
just a little housekeeping that everybody's on the same way.
If anybody has any questions on that spiel, now's the time.
Questions, comments? I move we go ahead and accept the assessment hearing for the Russell Cross 512 ditch and all the improvements in the watershed. Been moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
The next drain on the list is the Carper Crowder, number 513. The Carper Crowder was constructed in 1909, reconstructed. It was never reconstructed according to our records. Located in Township 20 North, Range 3 West, Sections 31, 32, and 33. The current watershed consists of 1,130.1 acres. The proposed watershed is 1,132.04 acres. Tile consists of approximately 8,217 feet of tile, ranging from 24-inch, 22-inch, and 16-inch. There is 3,661 feet of open ditch that's associated with the Carper Crowder. Currently, there are 52 parcels assessed. The proposed watershed includes 53 parcels. The drain was on assessment in 2025. The drain classification in 2025 was in need of maintenance. So currently the assessment, again, we're raising this one as well. Currently $3.50 per acre with a $5 minimum. The proposed assessment is $4.21 with a $5 minimum. So currently the watershed collects $4,003.61 per year. The proposed would collect $4,808.15 per year. Now below that you'll see current maintenance balance is $0. Current improvement balance is actually negative $8,664.66. So this speaks to what I was just talking about. So we borrowed money from the improvement fund because we did more work than what was available in the maintenance fund. So with this one, it is actually very appropriate that we raise that assessment rate to collect that money that's going to be necessary to pay back that deficit in the improvement fund quicker, as well as allow for funds available, for necessary maintenance on that drain. When you have that much open ditch, you've got a lot more consistent maintenance. A tile, you might fix a tile hole and it might be 10, 15 years before you see another tile hole. An open ditch needs almost constant maintenance. Even once you get it into what we call a workable state, meaning all of the brush and trees have been removed on one side, you're still always going to have beaver dams, you're going to have bottom dipping that's necessary, you're going to have bank blowouts. So spraying, all of that stuff is a more consistent maintenance need for a drain that has open ditch versus one that's just tile. So again, with these numbers that we're seeing, it's very appropriate that the board raise the assessment on this drain, not only to keep up with the cost of everything today, but also to make sure that we're collecting that money to pay back that deficit that it's carrying in the improvement fund in a timely manner. So again, the map you'll see here, the blue line is the proposed and the white line was the existing. So you can see the changes were very minimal, but necessary to make sure that that watershed conforms to the adjoining watershed to the east. And again, the next page is the current schedule of assessments followed by the proposed schedule of assessments. And I will answer any questions you might have. And I'll throw it up on the map here.
Any questions for Tom?
I want to stand up a moment. Sorry, Jake. Trying to understand.
Sure.
You have proposed parcels, and they've increased each time by one parcel.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm going to be collecting on this, I want to know, they got that notification?
Mm-hmm.
Are they already in that watershed, most of them? Do you think? Like Kane Home Life Farms, like would he be another added parcel, or were they new to drainage assessment in general?
I'd have to look deeper into that, to be honest with you. Generally, it's a matter of a split that was done that was never correctly put in. That's a lot of these cases, and while we legally probably could just go ahead and start assessing them because the split was done by the county, we thought it was more appropriate to have a hearing to give them the chance to understand why they're being assessed rather than just suddenly getting an assessment. But yeah, the majority of these are splits that were never updated correctly. So we're just updating those records basically. And there has been a few, that's all right. There have been a few instances where the watershed change has incorporated a new parcel that was never assessed for that drain. Generally, those were actually assessed for a different drain, but they are still noticed for this hearing, and this hearing covers our legal responsibility to make sure they understand why they're going to be assessed to a new drain rather than the existing one. So, yeah.
Tom, was there one time back, 10 years ago that we changed the way of determining watersheds?
Yeah, so when I started in 2005, the county was still using the watersheds that were basically constructed in the 60s when the drainage code and drainage boards were established. I will just pull these up real quick to give you an idea of what we were dealing with at the beginning versus what we're doing now. So this isn't the drain we were just talking about. This is the George Kendall drain, but you can see this. So this was what was considered the watershed for the George Kendall in 2005. Now, none of you are engineers with the exception of a couple of you. I don't think any of you think that water runs in straight lines. So water doesn't respect property lines. Water doesn't respect roads. Water doesn't respect anything that is drawn on a map because water is gravity flow. So these watersheds were actually tremendously accurate for when they were put together. In the 60s, with the tools they had available at the time, these watersheds were actually really good for the time. Shortly after I started, we were in the process of getting what we call the GIS, which is the map that you're looking at here. And we decided at that point, you know, if we're gonna jump into this technological age, shouldn't we start trying to construct more accurate contour-based watersheds? So we hired Schneider Engineering at the time to come through and break the entire county down into big watersheds, break those down into smaller watersheds, and then come in and actually break those down into smaller watersheds. We then use those very small pocket watersheds to create what we're calling our regulated drain watershed. And I'll give you an idea on the map here what I'm talking about because some of you probably don't understand what I'm saying. So when we had Schneider come in, we told them, hey, our watersheds are wrong. We want you to do some work based on all of the data that was available at the time, all of the state flights, all of the contour elevation data that was available for the county, to use that to begin to break the county into watersheds. So this was the first step. So you can see each of these white boundaries is its own larger watershed area or drainage area. So then we said, okay, but that's not going to work for us. We need a little bit more concise breakdown of that. So we had them come in and then break those watersheds down into even smaller watersheds. And again, when you're trying to define small areas that are defined by a certain drain, again, even those lines were not accurate enough. So then we said, okay, we want to take it one step farther and come in and break them down into even smaller watersheds. So now we've got all of these very small watershed areas. Each of these white outlines is another drainage area. But when you have a regulated drain in flat areas like we have in the county, they will actually incorporate many drainage areas into one larger drainage area. So this is how we can now take, so like this drain here, the Joseph Conway that you can see is all of these green lines are all separate tiles, all part of the same drain. So then we can take all of these little pockets and say, okay, we know where the outlet is, we know where our upstream end, we know where all of these tiles at least are close to being where they're located. So then we can take all of those and like a puzzle, put those pieces together to create a watershed just for that specific drain. So now what we have is our watershed areas are much more accurate in the way of the contour of the ground. You'll see none of these lines are drawn along property lines like they did the old ones or along roads or anything like that. Now, a caveat to that, most roads are built up, so roads can absolutely determine water flow, but they generally won't determine a watershed because even though that road might stop the water from getting through at one point here, the water is just going to find its other way around that high spot. You can't stop water. You can put anything you want in front of water. It will either find a way through it or it will find a way around it. So these watersheds were much more accurate, so we feel like we're much more accurately assessing these drains and able to say, okay, I think I'm gonna need this much money in maintenance each year, I can then take that more accurate watershed and say, okay, it needs $2.30 per acre to collect that amount of money that I expect is gonna be spent on maintenance for that year. So now what we have here now is, rather than having the old squared off watersheds, we have contoured watersheds for all of our regulated drains. So now it looks like this in the county. So you can see none of these watersheds have straight lines, because again, water just does not, I wish I could get water to just flow in a straight line, but it just does not do that. And again, because we are so flat in many of the areas of the county, you'll see our watersheds are very kind of grouped together in areas. Madison Township, of course, is so flat that it is, you see there's a bunch of regulated drainage up in the northeast part of the county. There's a good amount in the northwest part of the county. But then you get over here by Shades, where you have a lot more grade, you have a lot more hills, you have a lot more elevation change. That water goes where it's going to go. You don't need to help it along. So you can see we have very little regulated drainage down here around Shades and where the actual creek is, because you have elevation that carries that water where it's going to go anyway. You don't need to help it. We do have one regulated drain down here, but that is just a flat spot in the middle of that whole kind of contoured area. So the regulated drains were established basically under the understanding that, you know, you can do your tile, but if somebody downstream from you doesn't take care of theirs, or somebody upstream from you doesn't take care of theirs, you're going to see an impact from that. So regulated drainage is basically to give everybody the same voice, to give everybody the same opportunity to be able to drain their land. So again, the watersheds that you see here are much different than the watersheds that we had when we started this venture in 2005, for me anyway. It makes it much more accurate. It makes it much more easy for the board to say we're confident in this watershed, because again, as we go along, information gets more and more accurate, more and more available. A lot of the contour information that we have now, we used to have to pay for, but now the state does a flight, and they do actually much more, they do what we call 1 foot contour layer versus the 2 foot that we had to work with before. So all of this information goes into making sure these are as accurate as possible, because if the watershed has to be accurate to assess it accurately. It's just that simple. They kind of go hand in hand. So that was a lot of stuff I just threw at you, and I know I used a lot of terms that probably most of you don't know or understand. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions on the idea of where we were versus where we are now on watersheds.
Any questions?
And you're all welcome to call me anytime, and I can bore you some more.
I move we accept the assessment hearing for the Carper Crowder 513 ditch and accept the watersheds presented to us.
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, the next drain on the list is the Low Miller. The Low Miller, number 536, was constructed in 1896 and 1907. We don't show any record of reconstruction on the Low Miller. The drain is located in Township 19 North, Range 3 West, Sections 14 and 23. Currently, there are 462.87 acres in the watershed. The proposed watershed includes 462.91 acres. There's 5,405 feet of tile, ranging from 18-inch, 15-inch, and a few unknown tile sizes. There is 165 feet of open ditch associated with the Low Miller drain. Currently, there are 29 parcels assessed. The proposed watershed is 30, so one additional parcel. Drain status in 2025, it was on assessment, and the drain classification for 2025, the drain was in need of maintenance. Again, this is an increase as well. So currently, the assessment is $2.06 per acre with a $5 minimum. The proposed is $2.56 per acre with a $5 minimum. So currently, the drain collects $987.74 per acre. With the proposed increase in watershed changes, it would collect $1,218.39 annually. Currently, the drain has a $3,347.91 balance in the maintenance fund with a zero balance in the improvement fund. Again, the second page shows the watershed with the circles around the small revisions to the watershed area. And following that, you have the current schedule of assessments, followed by the proposed schedule of assessments. And I will answer any questions you might have. And I'll pull it up on the map. So the red outline here that you see is the, well, there it went. So the red outline is the proposed watershed for the Low Miller drain, and the green line that you see here is the subsurface tile, and then you see this small piece of blue line down here is the small stretch of open ditch that feeds then into the Needham-Boer regulated drain.
Any questions for anybody?
Tom, I have a question on the financials. Can you go back to the
Sure.
sheet? It's just interesting.
Schedules of assessment or the report?
Right there.
Okay, yep.
So, the current maintenance fund is $3,300.
Mm-hmm.
The 4-year max is $4,800.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna get assessed next year $1,200, which
Mhm.
will get you to $4,500. You're not at the 4,800 yet. So the year after that, you do a full assessment, or you do a
Correct.
partial assessment?
We would do a full assessment. Yeah, we don't,
You can go beyond the 4
yes,
years.
yeah, yeah. The 4-year, and the board actually has the ability to extend that 4-year to an 8-year. The code requires that after, if it collects 8 years, then it has to be taken off assessment. But the board does, we do have the latitude to say, okay, well, this drain has collected 4 years worth of assessment, but we know there's work that's going to be done this year that's going to take it back down below that. So we have the ability to keep it on assessment if necessary, but we're very careful about only doing that when it is absolutely necessary. I don't like going to the 8-year because then it just creates a little bit of confusion. I like sticking with the 4-year, but again, I always take into account, okay, what maintenance needs are going to be, that I know are going to have to happen. It's really more with open ditches. Again, I may know that this drain that's all open ditch, it's collected its 4 years, but I know I've got to go out and do tree removal and beaver dam removal and spraying next year that's going to take it back down. I'll just keep it on assessment, because what I don't want to do, I don't want to be, you're assessed 1 year, the next year you're not. The next year you are, the next year you're not. It's going to be hard enough to track, and that makes it very difficult to understand why we're doing what we're doing. For me, for my mind, it's better to say, okay, we're under that 4-year cap, we're going to assess it. Next year I will look at it again. If it's, even if it's a penny over that 4-year, if I don't have work that I know is going to be necessary, then I take it off assessment at that point. So every year I go through all of these drains at the end of the year and determine which ones will be on, which ones will be off. I submit that report to the board, which is then, once they approve it, then we submit that to the auditor to say, here's the list of drains you're going to take off assessment for this year. So, yeah.
Any other questions? I move we go ahead and accept the Little Miller 536 ditch, accept the assessment hearing and the watershed hearings. Been moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, the next drain is the Edward Patton. The Edward Patton, we don't know when it was constructed. We don't have any records, anything in our files that confirm when it was actually constructed. We don't have any records of it ever being reconstructed. The location is Township 19 North, Range 5 West, Sections 2 and 3. Currently, the watershed consists of 372.59 acres. Now, you can see here the proposed for the Edward Patton is actually 406.22 acres. That's a much more acres in that revision. That is because, if the board remembers, a couple of months ago we had a petition from the landowners to assume jurisdiction of more of that open ditch. So this watershed revision isn't just a matter of changing small lines to make it conform to surrounding watersheds. We have actually increased the size of this watershed based on the fact that we are actually now we've assumed jurisdiction of more open ditch that we have to maintain. So I'll show you that map here in just a second, but I wanted to clarify that because it is a little bit different than the other ones we've done. The tile consists of approximately 9,151 feet of tile, ranging from 12-inch and some unknown sizes. There is 2,462 feet of open ditch associated with the Edward Patton drain. So currently there are 23 parcels assessed. Based on the new watershed, there will be 27 parcels assessed. The drain status in 2025, it was an off assessment, and the drain classification for 2025 was in need of maintenance. So currently, the assessment is $7.33 per acre with a $5 minimum. Based on the current watershed, that collects $2,744.27 per acre, or annually, I'm sorry. So the proposed watershed would collect $2,990.48 annually. Currently, the maintenance balance is $13,509.16 with a zero balance to the improvement fund. So the next page shows the map. So you can see this white line right here. This is the way the watershed used to square off at this County Road 300 West because our regulated drains stopped at that road. Again, a couple of months ago, we received a petition from the affected landowner, Mr. Patton, to assume jurisdiction of this stretch of open ditch back down to where it joins up with the other regulated drain. So because the board approved that request to assume jurisdiction of that extra stretch of open ditch, we then had to come in to revise the watershed to make sure all of the acres that were affected by that portion of open ditch are now assessed. So this blue line that cuts back to the east here, taking in this area, this is the revision to the watershed that creates the difference, the major difference in the amount of acres that is actually assessed. There was, again, a little revision over here to the west and to the north and to the east, but those were very small revisions based on conforming watersheds. But this area here that you see, this is all new, will be all newly assessed for the Edward Patton drain. Does that answer the question on that? For the board anyway? Yeah? Okay, so following that, again, is the proposed schedule of assessments showing the breakdown of the costs based on the new watershed. The rate will stay the same as it was before. And I'll answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? I move we accept the assessment hearing for the Edward Patton 548 ditch and also the watershed presentation. Second. Been moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, the next drain on the list is the Charles Schoen number 1, which is number 552. So the Charles Schoen 1 was constructed in 1919. We actually reconstructed the Charles Schoen 1 in 2022. The location is Township 20 North, Range 3 West, Sections 28, 33, and 34. Currently, the watershed consists of 170.12 acres. The proposed is 170.18 acres. Tile consists of approximately 4,586 feet of tile, ranging from 15-inch, 12-inch, and 10-inch. There's no open ditch associated with the Charles Schoen 1. Currently, there are 7 parcels assessed. Proposed is 9. Drain status in 2025 was on assessment. Drain classification 2025 was in need of maintenance. So currently, the assessment is $3.91 per acre with a $5 minimum, which collects $670.59 annually. Based on the change, the proposed would be $680.59 annually. There's a $0 balance in the maintenance fund. There is a negative $767.60 in the improvement fund, and the current reconstruction fund balance is $45,428.18. The next page shows the map with the watershed, and then followed by the current schedule of assessments and the proposed schedule of assessments. And I will answer any questions you might have.
Any question for anybody? I move we go ahead and accept the Charles Schoen 1 552 ditch, maintain the assessment hearing and also the watershed hearing. Been moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Okay, the next drain on the list is the Allen Lewis, number 578, constructed in 1912, reconstructed partially in 2010. Its location is Township 20 North, Range 5 West, Sections 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Currently, the watershed consists of 2,275.85 acres. Proposed is 2,325.73 acres. Tile consists of approximately 23,315 feet of tile, ranging from 36-inch, 24-inch, 20-inch, 18-inch, 15-inch, 12-inch, and 8-inch. There is 3,508 feet of open ditch associated with the Allen Lewis. Currently, there are 140 parcels assessed. Proposed is 148 parcels. The drain status in 2025 was off assessment, and the drain classification for 2025 was in need of maintenance. Current assessment is $3 an acre with a $5 minimum, which collects $7,219.16 annually based on the current watershed. The proposed watershed would collect $7,397.47 annually. Current maintenance balance, $29,810.72, with a zero balance to the improvement fund. So the next map shows the watershed with the changes, and I'm just going to walk through a couple of these because a couple of these are a little bit more significant than what you've seen. But these changes are based on conforming to the watersheds that we have with Tippecanoe County for what we call joint drains that we share with Tippecanoe County. So these watersheds were submitted to us by Tippecanoe County because they administer those drains. So these lines conform to those drains that are actually located in Tippecanoe County, but are what we call joint drains that we share with them. We share responsibility for assessment. The rest down at the bottom on the south part of the watershed, you'll see those are mostly the minor changes that we were talking about before, with making sure it conforms to the watershed to the south. And then again, following that, you've got the current schedule of assessments followed by the proposed. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none, I move we accept the Allen Lewis 578 assessment hearing and watershed hearing.
Second.
Been moved to second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, the next on the list is the Thomas and Alfred Taylor, number 590. Thomas and Alfred Taylor was constructed in 1885 and 1899. We show no record of any reconstruction. Located in Township 20 North, Range 5 West, Sections 35 and 34, and then in Township 19 North, Range 5 West, Sections 2 and 3. Currently, the watershed consists of 1,044.43 acres. Proposed watershed consists of 1,055.55 acres. Tile consists of 5,126 feet of subsurface tile, ranging from 6-inch, 8-inch, and 12-inch. The open ditch consists of 8,960 feet of open ditch. There are 44 parcels currently, and also in the new watershed proposed 44. The drain status in 2025 was off assessment. Drain classification in 2025 in need of maintenance. So currently the assessment is $5.62 per acre with a $5 minimum, which annually collects $5,889.63 currently. The proposed watershed would collect $5,952.13 annually. Currently, the maintenance balance is $27,073.56 with a zero balance to the improvement fund. Again, the next page shows the map of the watershed, and again, this one, like the Edward Patton, again, you can see down at the south part, the landowner requested that we assume jurisdiction of that lower end of that drain as well, which then again created the need to revise this watershed a little bit less impactful than the Edward Patton, but again making sure these lines butt up to each other so that it's a conformed watershed for each. So that's the additional acreage on this one. No new parcels, just additional acreage, followed by the current and the proposed schedule of assessments. And any questions you might have. Bless you.
Any questions? I move we go ahead and accept the Thomas Alfred Taylor 590 on the assessment hearing and the watershed presentation. Been moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I approve the motion. Aye. Did we vote? Go ahead. Okay, next one, Tom.
Next is the Boswell Clough, number 595. Boswell Clough was constructed in 1893 and 1938. We show no record of reconstruction. located in Township 20 North, Range 5 West, Sections 8, 9, and 17. The watershed currently consists of 666.75 acres. The proposed watershed is 667.22 acres. Tile consists of approximately 18,004 feet of tile, ranging from 15-inch, 10-inch, and 8-inch. There's no open ditch associated with the Boswell Clough. Currently, there are 119 parcels assessed for the Boswell Clough. The proposed is 122. The drain status in 2025 was on assessment. Drain classification in 2025 in need of maintenance. And again, we are raising the rate on this, or proposing a raise in the rate on this one as well. So currently, they pay $2.13 per acre with a $10 minimum. The proposed assessment is $3.73 with a $10 minimum. So currently, it collects $2,243.39, and the proposed would collect $2,497.65 annually. Current maintenance balance is $4,033.62 with a zero balance to the improvement fund. So again, you'll see the watershed in the next page with the circles around the very minute changes to the watershed. Just to clarify for anybody that has questions, you'll notice on this one that the minimum on all the other ones we've talked about was $5. The minimum on this one is $10. The reason being is for drains that incorporate parts of towns or incorporated areas, you have a lot more small parcels, so that minimum comes into effect a lot more commonly in that watershed. So we have to raise that minimum to make up for the lack of actual assessment to those acres, if that makes sense. So anytime you see a watershed that includes an incorporated area, generally those are going to have a higher minimum because you've got more parcels that are paying that minimum so that it doesn't impact. Otherwise, we would have to come in and raise the rate, which would cost even more to everybody else and cost you less if you only have half an acre in that watershed. So I hope that clarifies that and answers that question. And then following that, you've got the current and the proposed schedule of assessments. So again, if you look at this schedule of assessments, in the column over here that says assess, you see most of the parcels in this watershed pay the minimum. So if we did not raise that minimum, we wouldn't collect near the money that we would need to. So we would have to then increase the per acre rate, which negatively impacts the farmers who are already paying the majority of this cost anyway. So anytime a drain incorporates a lot of parcels that are charged the minimum, we have to raise that minimum to make up the difference. And I'll answer any questions.
I move we go ahead and accept on the Boswell Cliff 595 ditch, the assessment hearing and the watershed presentation.
Second.
Did you open it up? Did you open it up for the landowners?
Any questions?
Okay, just making sure.
This is one involved in New Richmond Township, New Richmond, right?
Correct. Starts in New Richmond.
Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye. 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 Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, and the final hearing today is the John Coiner, number 599, constructed in 1882. It has not been reconstructed, but it is on schedule for reconstruction this year. The drain was located in Township 20 North, Range 3 West, Sections 9, 10, 15, and 16. Currently, the watershed consists of 523.31 acres. The proposed watershed includes 523.42 acres. Tile consists of approximately 5,405 feet of tile. It's all 15, well, it's not all 15, it's actually 15-inch, 12-inch, and 10-inch. The open ditch, there is 3,559 feet of open ditch associated with this drain. Currently, there are 18 parcels assessed. The proposed watershed includes one more, so 19. The drain status in 2025 was on assessment. Drain classification for 2026 is in need of reconstruction. Currently, the drain is assessed $2.38 per acre with a $5 minimum. Again, that rate is not proposed to change. So currently collects $1,245.48 per acre. The proposed watershed would collect $1,250.48 per acre annually. There is a zero balance in the maintenance fund and currently a negative $2,459.58 balance in the improvement fund. Again, the next page shows the watershed with the small revisions circled, followed by the current and proposed schedule of assessments. any questions you might have.
Any other questions for Tom? I move we accept the John Corner 599 assessment hearing and the watershed presentation. Been moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes.
Tom, I have a general question for you. When a farmer says, look, I'm getting too old, I don't want to deal with this open ditch, take it on, and he petitions you to take on, let's say, half a mile of ditch, and you determine that, okay, that brings in another 10 acres into this ditch, and the cost is $1,000 additional. Do these two farmers that are impacted by the 10 acres pay the difference, or does the whole watershed pay?
The assessment is paid by the entire watershed. So yeah, it wouldn't be zeroed in on just those two landowners.
So that decision, is it the board that makes the decision to accept that ditch, or do the people that pay into it have a say in it?
Well, there's two different methods for that, kind of along the lines of the private versus mutual drain aspect. So I'll just take this most recent situation where we've done exactly that, taken jurisdiction of a drain based on a landowner request. So with the Edward Patton drain, I'll zoom in here as soon as my map loads. So as I mentioned before when we were in the hearing on the Edward Patton, so originally this drain, it showed the regulated drain ending at County Road 300 West. So this portion of open ditch here that's drawn in blue now was considered private. So Mr. Patton came to us and said, I would like to have this established as part of the regulated drain and begin to be maintained by the regulated drain fund. Because he owns all of that ground where that drain is located, so he is the only affected owner of that portion of open ditch. So because he signed the petition, submitted it to the board actually had the ability to order that established at a regular drainage board meeting. Now, if that open ditch went across 3 different landowners and only one of the landowners signed the petition, the other 2 weren't interested or didn't sign the petition, and he submitted that to us, then we would have to actually set up a legal hearing to give everybody in the watershed the ability to come and express their opinions or 2 cents on whether it should or should not be assessed. Now, just because everybody didn't sign the petition doesn't mean that the board can't ultimately approve that petition. It just means that because of only one landowner signing the petition, it requires an actual legal hearing of all landowners being noticed and ability to come speak to it. Does that answer that question? Okay, but as far as trying to apportion any additional maintenance needs because of that new portion of drain and trying to assess it only to those affected landowners is not the way that it is done here.
And the standard is whether or not the private or mutual drain conforms to the standards of design and construction of the county drainage board.
Right.
So it's, when the board gets ready to make the decision, that's what it's looking at. It's not, the law says, it's not whether everybody wants it. It's, if a petitioner applies, then the question before the board is, will it conform? If it's added to regulation. So there's some confusion on that. We hear a lot of people say, well, the majority of us have to decide. That's not the standard, so.
Yeah, that argument is used for a lot of different aspects of drainage, and the drainage code, I don't know of any spot where the majority of landowners is even mentioned in the drainage code. The drainage code gives the board the authority to make these decisions. The hearing is the opportunity for the landowners to come and speak their piece about it, whether they agree with it or not. But I always tell people, like on a reconstruction, once we get to the point of a reconstruction hearing, every landowner in that watershed can show up and say, we don't want this, we don't want to pay for it. The board still has the ability to approve that reconstruction and assess it to those landowners, because that was the power that you gave the board when you came and said, we need you to make this a regulated drain. It's important to remember the board didn't pick these drains and make them regulated. All of these drains were requested to be made regulated by the landowners at the time. So when you do that, you give the board very wide authority for making essentially every decision that goes along with that regulated drain.
And then the courts came in and said not only do they have that authority, but they actually have the obligation
Yes.
to assist in drainage or vacate it. That they can't just sit there and let poor drainage exist or flooding, and if they do, then the county's liable for it. So it's true what Tom says, but it got even worse for the board and the county because the courts started coming in and saying, if you just sat there on your hands, you're going to be liable for the adverse effects, and that changed a lot of things for drainage boards.
Any other questions for anybody? Go ahead, Gail. Come on up here in front, will you?
Go back up there to the, Walter, or Charles Cummins ditch.
Yeah.
And, I might have missed something there on the, maintenance and improvements.
On the balances, you mean? Yeah.
Can you ask me why we have so much in reconstruction balance and in the hole on, improvements?
Yeah, so the deficit that's in the improvement fund, that's just from the amount of work we did for the preparation or lead up to the reconstruction. So that's almost paid back. That'll be paid back this year with the assessments that come in. And the balance that you're seeing is because those funds have come in, but that loan payment hasn't come due yet. As soon as that loan payment comes due, we'll be shipping that money to the loan to reduce that amount of interest that you guys end up having to pay on the loan.
Paid that all.
The loan?
Yes.
That was reconstructed in 2022. That would be an awful quick timeline to have that paid back. It's possible. Let me see if I can, well, you might have paid yours off, but that doesn't mean the loan has been completely paid back.
And it's not, why not?
Because you're not the only landowner in the watershed.
We're 3 landowners on that watershed, I believe.
I think it was 7 is what I show. 7 currently, and it will be 9 now. There were 2 acres, or 2 parcels that were not assessed. Let me pull this up and see what the, sure, yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Well, Tom, you mean the loan the county took to do the work? Is that the?
Yes, the loan to pay for the work that was done. So let me just pull it up here and we'll see what the status of the actual reconstruction loan is. So Charles showing 1. No, so that loan has not completely been paid back. So we're still making payments on that loan.
But we, as landowners, have paid it all.
We, as in you?
I think Linda and others on that.
Okay. The loan payback as far as the timeline was January of 2028, based on the 6-year loan period. But as far as whether everybody has paid theirs off or not, that doesn't necessarily mean that the loan is paid back. Again, once that loan period comes in, then we will pay whatever we have collected at that point. But I can't tell you for sure what is due on that loan without talking to the bank right now, because again, you can see how many reconstructions we have going right now, so.
But from his standpoint, the additional cost will not affect him.
Additional cost.
That the interest that is being charged to the loan right now on the other landowners, if Gale has paid his portion of it off, then he's done.
Correct.
So the
yes,
extra
yes.
cost that,
What we sent to you in that notice of special assessment saying how much you owed, that number won't change. So if you've paid off that amount, you're done. You don't have to pay anything else. Correct.
My next question. I'm not asking for names, but.
Sure.
Who hasn't paid?
I don't know that.
I mean, how many haven't paid?
I don't know that. I could look into it, but that's,
I'd appreciate knowing how much hasn't been paid, because, that affects, our maintenance on that too, a little bit, I would think.
no, that doesn't, it's a separate thing. There's no doubt that once that loan is paid back, no matter how, and this is the hardest part about tracking reconstructions, because you don't know who's going to pay it off all at once. You don't know who's going to pay it off over 5 years. You don't know who's going to pay it off over 2 years. There's no way to, anything else you ask me, I could give you a more generalized answer, but with reconstructions, I cannot, because we don't track each year to see who paid what. The treasurer's office has that information, and we have access to that information, so we could look up that answer for you, but I can't give it to you right now in this setting. Yeah.
I would appreciate it.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
any other questions for Tom? I appreciate you folks sitting around and listening to these hearings. You just had a Drainage 101 course in the last hour, and that's the reason why I come out there at the very first comment and made that was basically a hearing and not a assessment increase, and so that way we kind of wait from getting all the answers of wanting to know what the cost's going to be. So appreciate you all sitting around here. You can still join us for the rest of the meeting, or you can excuse yourself. It's up to you folks. So, thank you. Moving on. Oh, any old business?
I have no old business.
Do we have to sign all those?
Did you bring orders? We'll bring orders at the next meeting for all
Okay.
those.
All right. Any new business?
I have no new business.
Okay, Mr. Taylor, you want to give us the board training?
I do. So training this year is going to cover new laws, cases, and talk just a little bit about some points of emphasis. You guys had a good year from both an operational standpoint and a risk management side. And so I know that you know, so this might be a little bit more of just simply reminders. And the materials are there for you, and I'm going to hit some highlights. There was only one new law that really affects us, but it's kind of behind the scenes, and that is the state legislature passed new regulations about how our engineers in reviewing rainfall data, what standards they have to use. I'm not going to bother you with it, other than to say that Tom knows and our engineers know. And as I said just a few minutes ago, your charge from the state legislature and the courts is whether you want to or not, you have to manage your facilities open and the drains and the ditches. And if you don't, then you're going to be responsible. So this whole idea of what your job is, I think, is largely misunderstood. It's kind of a mandatory thing. So if you look at page 2, just remember it's worth noting, we don't talk about it much, but the purpose of the drainage law is to promote farm drainage and to prevent flooding. And the concept of the drainage law, why you exist, is because the legislature believes that landowners working on their own in agreement with their neighbors could not always come to agreements, and that the government had to be involved in sort of mending that fence, and that is why you exist. If you look at page 3, just a reminder about conflict of interest, and you guys do a good job of this, but if you have a financial interest in a particular case, you have to set that one out and recuse yourself from that, and you guys, we pay attention to that, we do that. Open door law, again, if 3 or more of you are together and you're dealing with the issues of the drainage board, that's a meeting. It doesn't have to be at this room, it could be anywhere. There's a case in your materials. required to do this classification annually. It's part of the operating cost of the board, not the landowner. On the top of page 8, you'll see some of these questions we had today about can owners request that their drain be reclassified? Yes, they can. 10% or more of the owners request that. They say, look, it's, you've got me in need of maintenance and I think it needs to be reconstructed. They can do that. If they say you've got it reconstruction, I think it needs to be maintenance, they can do that. If they want to vacate it, they can ask. Ultimately, all these decisions are up to you. But again, 10% more of the owners in watershed asks, then it would go to the surveyor for study, come back to you. The other one, number 7 there, you'll see on that page, a question we might see is, what if you vacate the drain? Where does the money go? And so you can see there that if there are maintenance funds at that time, that goes to the general drainage improvement fund, which is the fund we use for those kind of expenses to benefit any drain. Doesn't go back to the landowner. It's an interesting question, but that's something to work out. In addition to classifying grades, you'll see under F there that you have to adopt a long-range plan, and that long-range plan, as you know, schedules when reconstruction is going to be done and other things. It's a little forward-looking, and again, you have to do that before June 1st of each year. The surveyor will bring it to you, and then request for advancement. 10% of the owners or more may request that their project that's reconstructed be advanced on the schedule. So you may say that you're a 28 project, and they say we can't wait for 28, we need to be considering 26. There is a way for owners to make that request, and you have to determine whether that's good. We don't get a lot of those requests. We get a lot of that. Could we please delay my reconstruction, and that's understandable, but it is possible to advance. And we don't have those now much, but we've had times where we've had them on occasion. If you go to page 9, just, I just want to point out, number 6 there, toward the top, is you'll hear people say, well, I'm not going to get any benefit from the work you're doing on this reconstruction because my land drains fine. And the courts have said about 25 times over 100 years, that doesn't happen. If your water goes into our regulated drains and ends up in the Gulf of Mexico somehow, some way, you benefit. And so that, we hear that a lot, but just a reminder that we're not so concerned about that. The law says every parcel in the watershed benefits from the work that's done, even if your land appears to drain just fine. The bottom of page 9, you'll see again, what are the tests for reconstruction? The benefit of the project must exceed the cost. You must adopt the surveyor's report. You must adopt the schedule assessment saying what will be. You guys have done a great job on that. On page 10, there are the bidding rules, and you guys, Tom does most of this, but just, again, so you're aware that if the project's going to be more than 150, we have to bid it. And if it's less than that, we can take quotes or proposals. So, but the law requires us to do that. The idea behind the bidding law is that if you guys could just hire whoever you wanted, you might be paying too much. So it infuses competition into the process. That's the idea of bidding laws. I'm not sure if it lowers the cost or not, but that's the idea. And so you can see there, I put in kind of a lot of information then about what you have to do. On page 11, a couple things about that. One is, under G2, what if we have someone bid that we don't know, have no experience with? Well, then the survey is going to find out and make recommendations to you about that. What if we know them, we have experience with them, and it's really bad? Again, you'll see, when you make an award of a contract, there are 2 factors. One is what's the work to be done, the complexity of that work, what is the job like? Before, not all projects are the same, some are harder than others. So you have to look at that. And secondly, the skill and experience of the bidder. And we did this once. We made a finding that the bidder did not have adequate skill or experience, and we did award it to them, and they weren't happy about it, but I think it was in the long run probably the right decision to make, and that's the way we went. But it's really important that the work gets done right. And these landowners who are paying for it, they deserve to be done right, not to be those are rare, but if someone thinks that regulated drain has been obstructed, they're supposed to go to the surveyor. The surveyor is supposed to fix the problem and charge, he can charge the obstructor for it, or say that it was naturally occurring and assess all parties. Then the last couple of pages, these are just your cheat sheets. And then again, you know, you have the longest statute in America. It's a long, I don't know, more sections apply to you, well over 100 sections apply to you. So there are 10 different types of decisions you have to make. We don't do them all the time. But this just shows you, you know, who decides whether a public hearing is required, and what is the standard. And, you know, I applied Tom and Roger had that colloquy about, you know, how do you decide? So the standard tells you what's your decision making? What are the factors you're supposed to look at? And Tom's right. It's never a democracy. It's not your job to facilitate that. It's not what all the others want. You have standards you have to follow, and I've laid them all out for you. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. I just would note for the record, Mitchell, I've done it for you.
I do have one question. Going back to the award of contract stuff, having dealt with numerous contractors, and there's happens to be one that outperforms the other by miles, but his bid is $2,000 higher. I mean, does that matter or not? I mean, the other contractors, they get the job done, but landowner has to come in and do a lot of other stuff where a typical other contractor, you just go in and everything's fine. So,
Yeah, I think if you have information like that, you give that to the surveyor. And again, the test is not who's better, but it really is, does the bidder have the skill and experience and track record to do it? It is not about who's better. That makes great sense, right? That makes too much sense. But you're not really allowed to do it quite that way. But if we have a contractor who didn't keep the work site clean, you know, trespassed, all the things, you know, things we might hear about from time to time, you could go to the surveyor, give them that information and say, look, I'm not sure we want this guy doing, this company doing this work because of those issues.
okay.
And we hear about that from time to time. But it's not just this other person who's better. We have to make a finding that we don't believe that person has a skill experience based upon their past conduct. We need specific information, but we've heard some of that.
Okay.
I've heard some of that in this.
But we really should be holding all the contractors to the same standard.
Exactly,
So
yes.
if a contractor, my job sites are all under the same purview, and that is, you're gonna leave it as good or better than it was when you went into it. Now, I know we've got some contractors that do a better job of coming back in the next spring and doing leveling and stuff like that. A lot of farmers will just take it upon themselves. But if you would like the contractor to come back and level those areas, call me and I will make sure he goes back
And
out
we've
there.
tried, in the past, we've tried to get that contractor to
Don't-
come back, and
yeah.
they never do.
Don't call the contractor, call me.
Okay.
I pay the bills, I can get him out there.
And ultimately, if they refuse to be cooperative with Tom, then he can say.
Then it is, yes. Then we have what we need to be able to say they are not the most responsive contractor, right. But we have, like Dan was saying, we got into this gray area before. We need to have very clear, recorded evidence to say a contractor is not a responsible contractor before just saying that, so. Right.
But again, if we have that evidence, we can do that.
Right.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
I know it's easier, and I know a lot of you guys know the contractor, so it's easier to just call them, but if you want something done on my job, you're better off calling me.
Yeah, but we shouldn't have to worry about that,
I agree,
so.
And
But
that's,
yes, but thank you.
that was the gray area we got into before, is what is the standard for what we consider responsible? Because again, it's something like that may not be a big deal to Dave, it might be a big deal to you,
could be
you know,
a
so I
huge-
think it's,
Different.
Especially when
Each
you go
landowner
through there,
different.
hit something they left and ruin a corn snout.
yeah, see, that's definitely something that should have been, if nothing else, if not rectified, a record made of it, so that we can then use that in the future to say, we don't want to give it to you because of this issue right here, so, yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'll know that future.
With comment on his, do we as board members, I feel like he's complaining about the farmer hat on, not as a drainage board.
That was a farmer comment more than anything.
So, do we need, are
So you're asking if you can, yeah,
Give information to the surveyor then takes that information and he
yes,
makes
yes,
recommendations to you.
yes,
So we definitely need to channel that information. Also, people will call you.
yeah,
We just need to make sure that it all gets to the surveyor. Then,
yeah.
when he comes in and if he asks you to make a finding that the low bidder should be disqualified because they don't have the
Right.
adequate skill and experience based upon their behavior, we've had trouble in the past. We're gonna need to be able to point to facts. So the more facts, the better.
And if you want to call the contractor yourself first and say, here's the issue I'm seeing, can I get you out here this week? If they don't show up that week, then your next phone call should be to me. Yeah,
Can the public ask questions?
yes.
With the chair's permission.
Yes.
Depends.
Education for all of us, and I have three scenarios. The first one was a regulated open ditch. The farmer came in, he wanted to build a pond, he dammed it, built a pond, allowed the outlet to continue through the ditch. The neighbor complained about that, he didn't go to the surveyor, he went to DNR and Army Corps of Engineers. They indicated that that was a navigable waterway, which it has a high water mark, that's all it needs. And it became a federal and state issue rather than a legal drain issue. Is that standard? Does the feds and the state overtake the surveyor if it's a legal drain? Do they have higher jurisdiction than he does, or should have it gone to the surveyor?
Well,
I
yeah,
think they
the,
have different jurisdictions,
yeah,
don't they?
different. But the
Yeah,
Army Corps, yeah, it's overlapping jurisdiction
Right.
is what it is.
right.
Federal overlapping jurisdiction, the Army Corps has very specific jurisdiction, but it's very wide-reaching because of that rule. So both parties have jurisdiction, and then each have jurisdiction to do different things.
And I would say that if the question is, if the board didn't allow that, if that structure's in the easement, the regulated drain easement, and the board didn't allow it, I don't want to make it sound like the Army Corps can say, yeah, you can put that pond there without the authority of the Drainage Board, because they do have the authority of what goes in that easement. So that's why,
The Army Corps bypassed the drainage board altogether. They made him remove the obstruction and reconstruct the ditch to natural.
They can do that.
they have that authority, yes.
Okay, that was one. The second one I have for you is, on a reconstruction of a legal drain, is it normal for the owners to come and say, county, you buy the pipes, we'll put it in?
I'd say that is not normal.
That's not normal. I think so. It's not normal.
It's not normal.
Is it allowed?
No.
I don't know how that could
Not on,
be.
not on a legal drain.
We've not done so that I'm aware of, but I mean, it would be up to the Drainage Board, but I think that's unusual.
Okay. And the last one I have is a parcel that sits on the edge of the watershed. It got developed, a big commercial building was put in place. Part of the drainage of that parcel was redirected into an adjacent creek that's outside of the watershed. They collected all the impervious areas into pipes and took them into that creek through an easement with the adjacent property owner. Now the guy's petitioned to be out of the watershed, although geographically he falls in the watershed. But his case was that all my water, all my impervious water, is now going outside of the legal drain.
Which county?
Is that acceptable? Pound.
Okay, not our county, okay.
This is, go ahead.
Go ahead.
This is,
County, what would happen?
well, this is similar to a situation that we deal with a lot, where a farmer wants to pattern tile his field, and he's got 90% of his acres in one watershed and this little corner up here in another watershed. Well, he doesn't want to run two different outlets, so he's going to tile all of his acreage to that drain. The Drainage Board finds out, what the Drainage Board then does, if that's another regulated drain, the way it should have gone is another regulated drain, we will actually assess that acreage for both drains, because you can redirect your subsurface water one way, but your stormwater is still going the other way. So the board has made the decision to at least have a policy in place to say, you tile your water the other way, that's fine and good, but it does not change our assessed watersheds, because our watersheds begin designed by surface characteristics. The subsurface drain adjusts that or alters it, but it all starts with contour of the surface.
Well, Tom, they changed the surface because what they did is they put these big parking lots in. They collected all the water that's coming into these parking lots. And what used to go south, now it's going to go north outside of the watershed.
And under no rain event would it go the original way,
It should all go to the,
no matter what rain event.
right, because he
even if we get 100 inches in an hour. That's my conforming fact right there is, yeah, you're probably right. And 99.9% of the time, you're never going to affect that drain. But is it possible that a rain event could be enough to circumvent whatever you've done to change the direction? That's why there is such a push to keep watersheds static, to not cross watersheds, because again, in 99.9% of the time, you're absolutely right, it probably would never go that way. But is there a rain event that would exceed whatever revisions you've made to change the direction of the water? If so, then it's cut and dry to me. You need to be assessed for that drain as well.
So my point is, does the board have the authority to consider a petition to remove a parcel out of the watershed?
That's basically the surveyor's purview, but the drainage board would have to basically then approve that, kind of like what we did the assessment hearing today. I have landowners all the time, oh, I'm not in that watershed, I stand out there and watch my water. Well, that's probably absolutely true, but it's also absolutely false, because you might be able to stand out there and watch your water go this way. But if my watershed is 2,000 acres, what's to say that water doesn't go that way and then at some point curve back? I mean, I've got drains that are literally looped loops because that's the contour. That's the only contour they could drain it in. So you might see your water going this way and ask, why am I assessed for this drain over here? Do you know what it does once it leaves your property? You know, so that question of I'm not in the watershed, again, we've had a couple instances, and generally what we will do is tell landowners, look, we are going by the data that we have, which is all that we can go by. If you want to get a surveyor to come out there and survey every inch of your farm and can come back with, evidence to show that that water doesn't go into that watershed, then it would be a little bit more of an action for the board. But normally it's a very simple, no, you're wrong. You may not think your water goes there, but we spent a lot of money for all of this technology, and that's what we use to create these drainage areas. So I don't want to say it's automatically, if you say I'm not in the watershed, I say, nope, you're wrong. I look into it. I use three different watershed modeling programs when there is a question about, is this watershed accurate? But I can tell you that every case where I've gone into that much detail to try to clarify whether somebody is or not correctly assessed, in every case we've been right. Not to put a feather in our cap, just to say that we put too much time and effort into making sure we were right before establishing these watersheds, that there's never been an instance where somebody brought some new information that we just didn't take into account or didn't have it at our disposal. So, like I said, using three different models for watersheds, that gives me enough to know that if they're all saying the same thing, I'm going to assume that we're right. Yeah. But we do always have the ability to get engineers or surveyors involved, but I generally won't, because where am I supposed to pay for it out of? You know, if you're coming to me and saying that watershed's wrong, I shouldn't be assessed, well, the burden is on you to prove to me why you shouldn't be in that watershed, because all of my evidence says you are. They absolutely could, yes. And I tell everybody that is, first answer is, let me look into it, then I'll run the different models. I'll look at everything that I have available to me to confirm or deny whether they're right or I'm right. And then at that point, I'll let them know, look, based on what I have available to me, this watershed is correct. If you want to hire your surveyor on your own, if you're so confident that you're right, hire a surveyor on your own, have him bring back information to me, evidence telling me that I'm wrong, and the board would then make that decision accordingly. And I can tell you, I've never had anybody go and pay and have a survey done, because again, it's not just, no, you're wrong. It's, okay, but look at all this information that I'm using to say that we're right. Do you really think that you've got some evidence that I don't have, access to say that I'm wrong? So.
The short answer is yes. They could request it. I think Tom has an opinion about the chance of survival.
Zero.
Thank you for doing that, Roger. Thank you for asking that question.
The onus is on the petitioner to prove that his water is not going to, and then you study it, and then the board can make a decision.
Correct. And we dealt with that on the Marion Connor drain. We've dealt with that every few years on that drain.
Thank you guys for your time and what you do.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there a process to get a ditch renamed?
Rename.
Move to adjourn.
Hey,
We get this.
A ditch a few years ago that was done, and this hired man, the farmer that was farming the ground, they put his name on the ditch, and since then, this hired man has went south. I mean, not a good situation. Well, some other
Okay,
provision.
okay.
Figuratively and literally.
I think it's called the Tom Emerson.
James Emerson. James Emerson, the James Emerson.
James,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah. And this has been brought up many times over my 20 years, and
We have discussed that before.
the code doesn't speak to it. There's nothing in the code about it, so I don't know if the board just has the authority to just say, okay, we're gonna change it to this, and I'll leave that to Dan.
I mean, it's part of our ditch that we pay on. So, we would like to have some input in that if we could.
Yeah, the law doesn't help us at all. It's been my position, the drainage board could rename, it could step into that controversy and change the name of a ditch if they so choose. That's the answer.
Well, I guess I'd be interested to know, Harold, of all the legal drains that we've got in Montgomery County, how the name of those came about.
Most,
A lot of them is the land.
the petitioner,
It's all
yeah,
basically landowners.
yeah.
This
Yeah.
guy was just a hired man and had never been around the area at all. There's landowners around there that could be.
I'd like that ditch renamed Rogers Ditch, please.
Which one? That one? The Roger Emerson ditch.
But you think about, as we went through these today, of when they was when they were constructed at the very start, most all of them is over 100 years old, and how they, at that point in time, I'm sure the landowners were in the committee to legalize drains, and that's how they came up with the names. I don't have the last.
It's generally whoever, if it was just one landowner that petitioned the courts, because that's the way most of these were set up originally, was through the courts, because the drainage board didn't exist then, the drainage code didn't exist then. These were established through the actual courts. And if it was one landowner, his name was put on it. If it was a list of landowners, whatever the first name was on that list, that was the name that was put on it. So,
Can I move that we change the William B. and
if I had my way, we've got Charles showing 1, Charles showing 2. Why would you do that, We've got, yeah. Drains have a number. We don't want numbered drains like Charles showing 1, Charles showing 2, because each of those have their own drain number. It gets confusing. Charles showing 1, number 552. I mean, it's just confusing. So,
One comment that, going back to the contractors, to what Lance said, I feel we're fortunate in our area now that we have 2 contractors that will come bid. There's difference in the 2 contractors. I can remember when I first got involved, we had some contractors that we knew nothing about and would come in and lowball. And we basically had to kind of check and see check things out, So,
right.
But it's, sometimes, we go back to the low dollar, but sometimes you can do low dollar and we get a mess too, so.
Then, when I did federal contracting, it was best value. And best value was determined by cost, lowest cost, past performance, and past experience. And they each had a weighted number that goes with them. Is that something this board can use, best value, so?
Nope.
No, because the code says very clearly, it's the lowest, most responsive and responsible bidder.
Bid.
So what happened if I lowball and then I come back to you with change orders later on, and then I'm above?
There's a limitation on the amount of change orders that, we're not allowed to do that. I mean, same limitations. It's just that the state law is slightly different than federal bidding law. And then, within that, the drainage law, we have our own bidding law inside the drainage code, which is a little different even than the state one. So they just have very specific provisions they have to follow, and like I mentioned, the contracts only for drainage boards, they have particular contractual terms, they have limitations, they can't award 110% more than the estimate. The change orders are controlled. It's actually pretty tightly controlled. We're lucky, we have a couple of contractors we deal a lot with, and they've been easy to work with on the contract and bidding side also.
Okay, are you gonna have more hearings next meeting?
Yes, at the February meeting, we
Can
have.
you get that meeting by the 11th and get all the stuff you gotta get done?
Yeah, we're already, that's why that's why we set those at the last meeting, was so that we would be able to get everything out in the time frame that's required. So those notices have already been sent to the landowners.
So the February 11th is the right date?
Right,
Okay, all right.
yes.
Any other comments? Go ahead, sir.
I have a quick, Ray Buchanan, I live on 400 West.
Sure.
I'm a very, very, very minor part, but I have .13 of an acre that goes into the drainage, according to the paperwork. I just wanted to see maps. Is this something that I can just come to
Sure.
you?
You can come right up here when we,
Because I'm wondering if my other 17 acres is in another drainage.
it sounds like your watershed splits your property. So when the meeting's over, if you want to come up here, we can take a look at it. Yep.
Okay, and no other comments? Anybody got any other comments? Go ahead, sir.
Next month is gonna be a big meeting like this again?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll be real quick here. Clark Boyle called me about a ditch. You guys don't control it, but it is in Montgomery County. Tippecanoe controls it. And they cleaned both sides of the ditch. I heard somebody up there say earlier, one side cleaning. Are there rules, one, and two, the trees that were bulldozed and burned, Clark ignored all his stuff that came in the mail. He ignored it, and all of a sudden there goes the trees. So he missed out on a potential timber sale because that had been left alone for a long time. There were big trees in there. I worry about the rural economy, and everything we can do to bring income into Montgomery County is a good thing. Clark blew it. But one side versus two sides, are there rules? Or is that just best managed practice?
So this is another area where agencies overlap. So our regulated drain, if it's a regulated open ditch, our easement is on both sides of the drain. So when we're doing tree clearing, debrushing on an open ditch, we are only allowed to clear one side of full-grown trees without approval of DNR and IDEM. So there's a petition, DNR and or IDEM. Okay, so I can clear one side. If I wanted to clear the other one, I would have to submit a request, an application to them to get a permit to do that.
So they had to do that.
There,
The new county contractor had to get a permit to get both sides.
I wouldn't say the contractor, I would say the county surveyor. If it's a regulated drain, it is their responsibility to do that, yes. Now, whether they did it or not, I don't know.
And if somebody's stupid and doesn't pay attention, and all of a sudden your contractor rolls up and there's saleable trees, they go, too late, you blew it.
Unfortunately, that's the case, because that easement is the regulated drain easement. And I've had this conversation with landowners before, was, why would you let the trees grow up there? You're letting those grow in the right-of-way. Now, the problem becomes it's not like a surveyed right-of-way, it's a statutory right-of-way. So a lot of people don't even actually realize that they have a regulated drain right-of-way on their property or easement.
My 75 feet on the north side, left the south side for shade, cool. Those are my trees, I can harvest them when I want to, or you guys decide?
You own, the landowner owns the trees. The county has easement, right of entry. We do not own the trees. So when we cut down trees, we pile them and leave them for the landowner. So if they want to log them, or if they know it's coming, they usually log ahead of time. But we do not own the trees. We have the authority to take those trees down if they're growing and causing an issue with maintenance on the drain. Yes, impediment to the maintenance of the drain. Thank you, Dan. Right.
So I control how I manage the other side of the ditch until you guys say you're going to.
You do, but you also have to be aware that any construction activities within that easement is supposed to be approved by the drainage board. So, yes, but you own the trees. We generally clear one side because that's all we need to actually maintain the drain, so.
And you don't make any accommodations for stupid people besides taxes, laws,
I couldn't do this, never mind. Let's move to adjourn.
Sir, what's your name again?
and I want to echo his comment, I think it was, thank you for your service.
Yes.
This is just a pain in the butt a lot of times to get people like me up here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Raul.
Entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you very much.